Good morning, Rise and Shine. Welcome along to Ireland's AM Tuesday.
He started it just before you arrived here. He went, what are you doing?
It's the morning we're trying to wake up here.
It is the 10th of January and there's lots lined up on today's show, Tommy.
First up, with some motorists waiting up to 6 months, insane, for an NCT appointment. We find out why drivers face long delays and hear about the regional divide in test pass rates across the country.
Yeah, one message we didn't get to read out yesterday was a woman who texted in about her son whose car passed totally fine and then it blew up on the motorway the next week.
Yeah, but even it passes and you don't really do anything to it and you take it back. Anyway, listen, it's very frustrating there.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. 089 611 111. Also from artificial intelligence to the metaverse later this hour. The tech trends that will shape our lives in 2023.
Plus, after 9, Northern Irish fitness influencer Maeve Madden will be sharing advice for reaching your health goals.
That's what's going to be happening. Now, guys, you might have heard it a second ago. It's not just any Tuesday. The original throuple is back together again. It's Throuple Tuesday. Good morning, Alan Hughes.
Good morning. How are you over there? Thank you. Lovely to be back with everybody.
No Sammy sausages now for another year.
Sammy sausages has hung up his tights till December.
He's happy to be done with them, is he?
Happy to be done till next December. Now, on the way this morning, we're looking to the stars and we're asking if astrology can teach us anything about our relationship. Don't know about our relationship. What star sign are you, Myrn?
I read it every day. I'm Aquarius. We're both Aquarius, aren't we?
I'm Pisces.
You're not Pisces.
I am.
You're not.
I'm Pisces.
He's Aquarius.
Why would you be lying about a star sign? Are you Pisces?
I'm Pisces, yeah.
And I'm Libra.
There you go.
Libra, so we've 3 different star signs.
What's wrong with you? Why do you think I'm not? Have I not read it right?
Because I genuinely think I gave you a present last year and it obviously wasn't your birthday.
Oh, it was.
It wasn't. Okay. Sorry, we'll discuss
we're getting
this
into
later on.
that. Yeah, we are different star signs. We'll be looking at the star signs later on. Yeah. Plus, there's a warming soup on the menu and Athleisure Wear on the catwalk. That's all coming up before 10 o'clock this morning. But Deric is out in the lashing rain this morning. Oh, Deric, where are you?
We're down here at Farnham in South County, Dublin. Welcome back, by the way. Some torrential rain out there this morning with some fresh to strong blustery winds, trees down, spot flooding and some thunderstorm activity later on tonight into tomorrow morning as well. But down at the DSPCA, of course, dogs and cats, not just for COVID or for Christmas, but for life. And we're going to be hopefully rehoming some furry friends a little bit later on this morning, as well as learning about their fostering programme. So that's all to come over the next wee while. Muireann, are you still looking for a doggy? We might find you one this morning.
Always.
Keep an eye out for a nice little cute one for our Deric.
Not
Fair play
loud.
to you. It's absolutely miserable out there today.
Awful.
Pouring.
Yeah.
Get the umbrella out. Now it is time to get the news over to Cliodhna Russell.
Thanks, Tommy. Good morning. A senior HSE figure says the number of cases of the flu virus here is continuing to rise, putting ongoing pressure on our hospitals. The number of people waiting on trolleys fell to under 500 yesterday after hitting a record figure of 931 last week. Despite the fall, the HSE's Colm Henry says the situation is still very uncertain.
There remains a great deal of uncertainty, and the trajectory of the flu virus continues to go up. Now, that's 8 successive weeks has been going up against the baseline influenza-like illness rate, and that's really a concern to us, because even when it peaks, it takes a number of weeks before it begins to fall. So by that reckoning, the month of January will still see ongoing pressures due to influenza alone, not to mention COVID.
The first space mission launched from the UK has failed as the rocket was unable to reach low Earth orbit as planned. The plane arrived back at Cornwall Airport early this morning. About 2 hours after the plane took off, it was reported that the mission encountered a problem. Thousands of Brazilians have taken to the streets demanding retribution against supporters of former President Bolsonaro, who stormed government institutions the previous day. Brazilian police have already rounded up roughly 1,500 rioters.
The Brazilian President Lula da Silva spent yesterday in crisis meetings to deal with the unrest gripping the country. Tensions remain high with fresh demonstrations on the streets of the capital, Brasilia. Security forces moving in to dismantle a campsite set up by supporters of the former president, Jair Bolsonaro, at military headquarters. It follows the storming of key government buildings at the weekend. Footage shows damage to the Congress buildings, Supreme Court and the Presidential Palace. Bolsonaro supporters have been protesting against Lula's election since October. They believe the election results were fraudulent. The recent escalation follows the inauguration of De Silva, who's vowing to punish those responsible for the attacks. Hundreds of people remain in custody. Marie Mulcahy, Virgin Media News.
Parts of Western Australia have been hit by devastating floods that's left hundreds of residents stranded. The country's Prime Minister visited some of the worst affected areas yesterday, describing the weather event as a once-in-a-century flooding.
We now have, by the end of today, 8 Australian Defence Force aircraft, 3 fixed-wing aircraft and 5 helicopters available, making a difference here on the ground. By tomorrow there will be 200 ADF personnel on the ground making a difference.
A status yellow rain warning has been issued for Munster and Galway. Met Éireann is warning that rain will be heavy at times, leading to spot flooding. The warning came into effect at 3 a.m. and will stay in place until 3 p.m. And finally, some bookshops in London opened at midnight to be the first to sell Prince Harry's highly anticipated book. Several people flocked to buy a copy of the memoir, with some describing why they want to read it.
When I put on the radio, all the TV, so if I work at home 3 days a week, I put on the TV, and these morning time TV shows, these daytime shows, without fail, every single day of the week, there's some kind of panel discussion or public calling about some outrage that Prince Harry has caused.
I want to be able to paint the picture myself, see it for myself, and then be able to say, okay, yes, maybe things have changed, or maybe the person has matured. But if I just read in the newspaper, I don't think I'll be satisfied just hearing, because each newspaper gives a totally different picture.
For car insurance, van insurance, or home insurance, call the Quote Devil. Unless, of course, you've got money to burn.
Yes, thank you very much, Ger. We're live down here in Rathfarnham at the DSPCA this morning. We've got lots of your furry friends coming your way over the next few hours. Hopefully we're going to rehome a few as well, so that's all to come in the next wee while. Anyway, let's pull back the curtains on your Wednesday morning, and we're kicking off, as you heard, with Cliodhna there in the news. A status yellow rain warning there for all of Munster and into Galway. That remains in place until 3 o'clock later on this afternoon, but torrential rain up across Ulster at the moment and into parts of northern Leinster. We did have a couple of trees down last night as well due to those strong and locally gusty southerly winds, with spot flooding surface water on the road this morning. So if you do have to make a journey, be very, very careful. Now, right across this afternoon, in fact, that rain will begin to slowly push out into the Irish Sea, and in behind it, it will be that mixture of scattered showers and some clearer spells for a time. And as that rain clears through as well, those southerly winds will veer to the west, and top temps very similar to yesterday, about 8 to 12 degrees. Finally then, tonight it looks like another wet and another windy one in store. This time we're looking at a risk of thunderstorm activity with some hail thrown in for good measure as well. So another rocky ride as we work our way tonight into tomorrow morning as well, with valleys on the chilly side back to 2 to 5 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here in a very wet and windy Rathfarnham at the moment. We'll be back again live at 7:35. Hang on in.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
The Quote Devil's always got one hell of a quote. He's a trooper. It is miserable outside and it's cold as well, so make sure to put on as many layers as you can. Now it's time to take a look at today's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times. Its headline: hospitals brace for renewed pressure on beds. More than 850 hospital beds have been unavailable for use this year amid the ongoing pressure on the health service due to a surge in hospital attendances.
Energy firm offers customers fixed tariffs after price surges. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. Energy supplier Flowgas has become the first to offer a fixed energy deal here in almost 3 years, in a move that sparks hope that prices won't rise further.
Moving on the Mirror's front page, headline is Punk shamrocker. Sex Pistols star Johnny Rotten is in the running to represent Ireland at this year's Eurovision Song Contest. That's not a headline you expected.
The Sun also needs that anarchy in the EU.
And the Star's take on that Johnny Rotten news, never mind the ballads.
In other news, the Examiner's front page reads, Gardaí tell TDs to carry panic alarms. Politicians have been told to consider carrying panic alarms and to vary the way they travel to work as the government assesses whether to pay for increased security measures.
The Herald's headline, The Thin Poo Line, referencing the incident when bags of cow manure were thrown at 2 TDs during a public meeting in Galway.
And finally, TDs are urged to get personal alarm as the top story on the Daily Mail.
We will be discussing security concerns for TDs and the other stories making the headlines. That's coming up after the break. Welcome back to Ireland AM. Now, we've got lots of stories on the way to you, and we are going to be asking if politicians should carry panic alarms after Gardaí have issued fresh security advice to TDs.
So Newstalk's Anton Savage is here with more on this. Good morning to you, Anton. So panic alarms, along with another range of other measures.
This is advice. This is a leaflet that's been given out by the National Crime Prevention Bureau to politicians. And what it says is it has advice for how to keep yourself safe, ranging from if you're travelling on public transport, like on a train, don't go into an empty carriage. Make sure you're in a carriage where there are other people around. Try to vary your route to and from work. If you visit a constituent's house, an interesting one, this, be careful about which room you go into, because at least if you're in the sitting room, there are relatively few weapons. If you're in the kitchen, there are more weapons available to people. Try to, if you can, carry a panic alarm and a whole series of things along these lines, even down to wear comfortable shoes in case you need to move fast.
Poor Norma Foley, if that's the case.
What?
Wouldn't really fit her attire, Norma Foley, having to run fire on the runners. But no.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of people will look at this and say, go away, lads, sure. Well, you know, it's hardly the born identity if you're a TD elected in Ireland.
Yeah.
I think the reality is it is very good advice, and it is prescient, because it's not going to be long before something happens where we all look back and say, that was predictable, we knew it was going to happen, and now we're sorry that it did. We had a situation, within the last couple of weeks or a month at most, where 2 elected officials, Kieran Cannon and Anne Rabbitte, had bags of excrement flung at them. Now, if somebody is dumb enough to think it's a good idea to throw excrement at a politician, it's not a big extrapolation to decide somebody will be dumb enough to hit one of them, or to assault one of them, or to try to take one of them captive, or anything along those lines. We've seen multiple instances in the UK where elected officials have been killed because people have been able to get easy access to them. And when you see situations where somebody's able to hit you with a bag of excrement, well, then they can hit you with something else. So I think it raises big questions, both for the safety of TDs, but it also raises questions about the level of security that they're given. There was a time that most, particularly cabinet members, had an armed detective beside them. Those days are behind us, and maybe it's time to look back at them.
Yeah, because I felt the same as you, that it's like everyone's going to be like, oh, this is so stupid. But at the same time, when you're seeing in certain countries the murder of Joe Cox, Dave Amos in the UK, Nancy Pelosi, the plot to kidnap her, the Michigan governor plot to kidnap her as well.
Here, wasn't the Sinn Féin Justice spokesman Martin Kenny? Someone rammed his gates.
Correct.
Yeah.
You had Simon Harris with people camped outside his house when he had a newborn child in the house, and they're camped outside shouting in the window at the
family. And
the same in Leo Varadkar's house as well, outside his house, shouting things that I have never heard of. Like, honestly, the most disgusting things I've ever heard.
But people will say it's our right for public protest, it's our right to protest outside people's houses, it's our right to be obscene and abusive if we want to, and there is legitimacy to that as well. But it is that kind of thing that says all it takes is somebody whose judgment is skewed for whatever reason to make a decision that, and if the politician has no security or protection, we have big problems.
And there's also then something that extends to this. Whatever people think is the motivation for people to get into politics, things like this are going to go, well, I'm not getting into it.
Oh,
like,
totally.
Why would you do it to yourself?
But that's the rule of politics in general. Anybody who has watched the life of a politician would say you would have to be completely deluded to want to get into it as a job. It is a thankless job. But even if you want to do a thankless job, you should at least be able to do it in some level of security.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we'd love to get people's opinion on this. 0896 111 111. Do you think that TDs should be given panic alarms in their houses? Should we secure more security? Yeah, is that the way really things are going, that politicians just don't feel safe anymore?
Or are you like, they're grand, don't worry about it? We'd love to hear, like, genuinely what you do think about this, because an awful lot of time there was an awful lot of money spent on these things and austerity, and they were all taken away.
So a bit of good news. Flowgas, the first company who's going to offer a potentially fixed rate on energy.
Yep, Flowgas is going to do a deal where they will say, look, you pay X and it stays at X no matter what international energy prices do. over the period, which if you're somebody who is deeply worried that there'll be another massive spike in gas prices and you won't be able to afford it, it is a nice way to hedge your bets. Now, that phrase, hedging your bets, is probably the appropriate way to look at it because it's a bit like going to Las Vegas. Flowgas in this instance is the casino. They're the house. They've made a judgment that says, we think energy prices are going to go to this level. We'll make sure that we've protected ourselves by covering with our fixed price. And if we're right, we'll do a little bit better. Your bet then is, well, I think you're wrong. I think it's going to spike more and you'll lose and I'll win. It's a way to offset any risk, but it is unlikely to be the absolute cheapest way you can go.
Because, again, like, if prices go down and you've gotten the fixed tariff, like, that's what you're stuck with. That's what's going to happen. But also, in most countries, they do offer fixed tariff, and we don't really do that in Ireland.
No, and it's one of those things where it is eminently... It's a bit like what happened in the mortgage market. When the mortgage market went up and down and up and down, eventually what we began to see was a huge influx of just fixed-price mortgages. There you are, that's the deal, be done with it. And it was a fairly predictable thing that somebody would do it. And again, I don't want to be overly facetious. For those who are concerned and who can't bear the thought of a doubling in their energy bills, this will be a great product.
And people who like to know exactly what's coming out of their account every month, they don't have to worry about it, they budget for it, and that's the way it is. But at the same time, it's a bit of good news, the fact that an energy firm is doing this. They think the reason they're doing this is that they believe that it's not going to shoot too much higher, that potentially it could be going down as well.
After 61 price rises in 12 months.
This is insane. The lead up to Christmas, we were just discussing
price rises, exactly the same thing.
I mean, it's unbelievable to think that given in a cost of living crisis, and this is probably due to the price of inflation, but grocery sales hit a record-breaking 1.3 billion. Just before Christmas.
This is Kantar, which is the organisation that does research into the retail grocery market across the country, and they do regular updates on who's doing best and who has what market share and what's the level of sales. But what they revealed was that there was the single biggest increase in grocery spending since February 2021 this December. Now, if you remember February 2021, that was a brief period, I think, when we came out of a lockdown and everybody went bananas. This is, I assume, the first Christmas in 3 years for a lot of people where they thought it's a real Christmas. So they went out and bought the biggest turkey they could find. They got roast beef, stuffed beef, spiced beef, ham, everything. And the end result is €1.3 billion spent in 1 month.
And also, the other interesting thing is, when it comes into inflation, is that it's the least products bought. They brought home more products than they did the previous year, while spending, we all spent a record amount. So God bless inflation and everything that's going on.
We were talking before Christmas, the average was like €35.
Oh, yeah, it was...
Yeah, I was thinking €35.
Oh, yeah, for the dinner, for the Christmas dinner.
It went up to 58. The average spent 58 on groceries.
Now, we're going to move on to something else, and I know I give most people the ick every morning, but we're going to talk about relationship icks. I'll get my housemate to text in about this one. I'm sure he's got quite a few. What's this, Anton?
This is a survey that has looked at what are the prime relationship icks, the things that cause people to get divorced, to quit, to leave. There's a couple of them that are sort of obvious: chewing with your mouth open, smelling bad, not wearing socks with shoes, which frankly should be a game ender right at the outset. There's one in particular which made me think, thank God there are still normal people out there. Because at I have the list, so let me just see. Number 25 on the list, clapping when an aeroplane lands. Right?
There should be immediate ick.
That's one for you, is it?
No, but it's more than the end of the relationship. You know the way they have air marshals in the States? There should be somebody whose job it is on a plane that when they clap on landing, say, excuse me, sir, you're never allowed in an aircraft again. Your rights to aviation. And like, what do they do when the plane crashes? Boo!
What about this one? A tenth of men would happily break it off with someone who wanted to share food on a first date.
Yeah.
Don't like that?
Well, then at least you know right then and there.
What's mine is mine.
I'd go away. Does Lucy go over, reach over and take the food? Does she not?
I definitely go on.
You have a bit of her.
Although even worse than that is people who take the food while you're cooking it. You know, when you've just chopped something, and you're like, see this side of the knife? You can eat that side. See that? That has my labour in it.
Yeah,
Don't touch it.
Hold on. So you can have, like, say, the full carrot. You can't have the chopped carrot.
Yeah, I just took it out of the fridge. You can have it out of the fridge too. If I've done this to it, I have invested my time in it. That's now my carrot.
I've never seen your eyes go wider in my entire life, and we have discussed serious issues here.
There's some really interesting... So not paying on the first date,
being too clingy, being too loud, having too many shirt buttons open.
How about this one? And can you give us an example? What would be putting on a baby voice, Anton? What does that sound like?
I actually know a couple who did that, and that used to drive me insane.
They talk to each other.
Thanks for rescuing me,
little Anton. Oh, you're so cute. What about this one? Pretend to be more knowledgeable about something than you actually are.
Double
What?
texting.
Who's holding their hands up on that one?
Double texting.
Yeah.
Where you text somebody and then when they don't respond, you text them again without them having responded to it. I've become a big fan of, you know, the little emoji of this, you know, this, so that it points to the previous
points
text.
back up to the previous text.
Oh, really?
This is my answer.
I do it with the other finger.
I like
let us know at home, do you have a relationship ick? Is there something that you've broken it off with somebody, a previous partner, because it was a little ick that just you couldn't deal with it? 0896 111 111. I'd love to have a bit of a laugh with that.
As all my previous partners text and go, she does this, she does this, she does this. Thank you so much, Anton Savage. It's been a pleasure to have you in. Thank you. Now, still to come, we take a look at the tech trends set to be big this year.
Plus, up next, why are drivers facing long delays to book an NCT test? See you shortly. Welcome back. Now, motorists looking to book their NCT appointment are reportedly facing waits of up to 6 months.
Here to discuss the delays is motoring editor at the Sunday Independent, Geraldine Herbert. Good morning, Geraldine. Thank you so much for joining us. So what's causing the delays?
OK, well, the NCT have been grappling, I suppose, with staff shortages for a number of years. This is not a new thing. Now, we also have sort of the post-COVID backlog. I'd also say that the flu season, which seems to be lasting twice as long as it does normally this year, RSV, COVID, all of these things are having an impact on staff shortages, staff absenteeism. And I'd say as well, people are not showing up for NCTs because of that as well. Now, no shows for NCTs has always been a huge issue, but you add in then somebody who wakes up in the morning and thinks, oh God, I feel terrible, I'm not going, and they don't even cancel. You can't roll those appointments over to somebody else. So all of this is like the perfect storm, and hence why we're in the mess we're in.
So what sort of waiting lists are people experiencing, and is it just in certain areas?
It really varies across the country. I had a look last night, and Dean's Grange is the 4th of August if you're looking for the next appointment.
That's in Dublin.
4th of August.
Yeah, Carrick-on-Shannon is the 6th of June, and then you go to Athlone and it's the 1st of February.
Can you say you live in Limerick and go, well, sure, I'm just going to book into Athlone?
Yeah, you can book in anywhere
exactly.
you want, but I'd also say that they don't release all of the appointments onto the online system. They always hold back some to be able to accommodate people. So if you're really in a rush and you urgently need an NCT, contact them directly. They do say that they'll sort you out within a couple of weeks. So bear that in mind. So the headlines of 6 months waiting lists or whatever, there's a way around that.
But let's talk about the thing that we were discussing a lot yesterday, and that was, OK, so you've got your appointment, you have your sheet. If you're pulled over by the Gardaí, you'll be able to show, look, I've got an appointment. Insurance. Are you covered by insurance if you don't have your NCT?
Yeah, the NCT have a statement from Insurance Ireland on their website to say that their Insurance Ireland their members will take a pragmatic view. So if you have insurance, you're in the system already, you're covered, and you have an appointment, you've made every absolute effort to make an appointment, but your appointment is whatever, July or whatever. Once you can prove that, again, you're fine. You're going to continue to be covered. And that's on their website.
So if my car is up at next week, but I have to wait into July to get an appointment, can I get insurance? Will insurance companies cover you in March or February if you go to them, or do they need to know your NCT status whenever you're actually getting insurance?
No, they will know your NCT status, but again, I would advise in that position to ring the NCT and say, listen, my insurance is actually expiring in the next few weeks. I need an NCT before that. That's why they have those appointments for people like that. So that's what I would do. The other thing, remember, is though, why do people leave it to the last minute to get their NCT?
Yes, I know.
Somebody contacted me yesterday and on Twitter, and they said that they booked their NCT for March last October.
Right.
That's how organised they were. They knew their NCT was going to be up in March.
I'd love to be like that, but it's just not me.
I know, but at least if there's
that person seems like a magical unicorn to me. I'm like, I don't know.
Well done.
You said that, and I was like, I don't understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but I mean, there are people who go through it and they think, I'm going to be due the NCT, this backlog, so I'm going to do this. So you can do that, and you can also book the test 90 days before your test expires, so you don't have to wait. You don't have to be within a week.
But does
we
that
were talking about icks a few minutes ago in relationships. That's an ick that my wife has against me, that I don't organise these things. But it's just, it's
just not you.
But wasn't there was also a thing about, the way if your NCT is due in March, you can't get the appointment until August, and it's backdated to when it was meant to be. If you book it 3 months in advance and it's not due up until June, Are you losing yourself time?
No, your NCT will still be due whenever it's due. It's as simple as that. So it doesn't matter when you do it. But definitely just think and plan early, because these delays are not going to disappear overnight. This is going to be an issue for the rest of the year, I can guarantee it. You know, they will get this under control, but there's always going to be that backlog because people are always going to leave it to the last minute. So get organised.
There were a lot of people getting in touch yesterday about pass rates in different areas of the country. What are the reasons behind that?
There's all sorts of reasons. There's obviously more affluent areas in the country than others, so therefore in those areas the car ages, the average age might be younger, and obviously younger cars have much higher pass rates than older cars.
Why would the car be younger? What do you mean?
If they're more affluent.
Oh, sorry, the car is actually younger. Sorry.
They have, not the people.
Yeah, I was like, I don't understand.
A lot of money and they're a lot younger.
Did the car get a bit of facelift? What's that? I don't understand.
The other thing is urban and rural areas. People in urban areas tend to drive less. People in rural areas tend to drive more. The conditions of the road make a difference as well. If you have a county council that are really good at filling potholes and your roads are really smooth, there'll be less wear and tear on your brakes and suspension. These are two key things that people fail for. Right. If you have bockety back roads that nobody looks after, that'll make a difference. Yeah. So all sorts of reasons. And also if you have a predominance of a particular car make in a county that's particularly well selling, because you might have a Toyota dealership in one area and then they're more reputable or more reliable. You know, you'll have all sorts. So it's the mix of models and ages and all sorts that make a difference.
Is it still 4 years? Like, say you bought a car in 2018.
Yeah, and then it's every 2 years until you have, if you have a 10-year-old car, then it's every year.
Does that not seem a bit mad? If you bought a car, 2019 car, it's 2023, like it's fuel efficient, it's everything, and next thing's like go for an NCT.
Yeah, but 4 years is a long old time. It depends what mileage you're doing as well.
What about if you do like 60,000 miles a year?
No, but what if you do 1,000 miles a year?
And remember, there's basic things like lights and stuff like that, and people are really bad about checking those things. They bring it to the NCT, and it's only when it fails they sort those things out. And in winter, on roads, like on nights like, you know, last night or the night before when it's wet and it's horrible, you really notice if people don't have their lights, you know, properly on and properly working and all sorts of things like that. So it's a basic standard, but it's a good idea.
There you go. That's you told. Geraldine,
it is me told.
If you had advice for people, it's just get booked early, get yourself organised.
Yeah, and if you are in a situation like you were saying, your insurance is out very soon, or there's some reason where you desperately need an NCT, get onto them directly. They will sort you out.
Lovely.
He doesn't do it, and Lucy's at home going, ick. 0896 111 111. We'd love to hear about your NCT experience.
Geraldine Herbert from the Sunday Indo, thank you very much for that. Thanks, now, Alan, what's coming up next?
That's a load of it. It's a money scam.
No, he just said.
Total money scam. Geraldine, just asking for a friend. Say if your NCT was due a year ago and this friend of mine still is to get it. Is it against the law?
Yeah, you shouldn't be driving without a valid NCT. Your car is technically not roadworthy.
I told my friend this.
Get the car off the road, friend.
Now, coming up from cybersecurity to artificial intelligence, we predict the technology trends that will take over this year. We're going to see you after the break. Staying with us now. 2022 was a diverse year for the tech industry with Elon Musk's Twitter takeover and staff layoffs. But what does 2023 have in store for us?
To predict technology trends for the year ahead is Elaine Burke, host of For Tech's Sake podcast. Elaine, it's lovely to have you with us. You know, tech, we sit there, we laugh at it, we go on Twitter laughing about people who own tech, but it controls our lives. So what's in the pipeline for 2023?
Well, in terms of controlling our lives, maybe AI is going to have a much bigger role to play in that. I think that's going to be the biggest tech trend of this year. We already saw it really on the rise in the last couple of months of 2022.
In what way? Like, where would we have noticed more artificial intelligence?
So if you were on Twitter at the end of 2022, you probably saw a lot of these kind of funny-looking images populating your Twitter feeds, and that was from people using tools such as DALL-E or Midjourney or Imogen from Google to kind of use a text-to-image generator. So you give it a text prompt, such as two hosts of a morning show sitting on a colourful couch, and it would try and generate an image based on that. Now, it wouldn't be great at depicting people's faces.
Would we look fabulous?
The faces are often the worst element of these image generators, but they also can depict things really, really well. And also you can ask for it to be done in the style of Picasso or the style of Degas or something like that. That's got a lot of questions about people who do that kind of work of creating images for like specific reasons, say for content creators, for people who maybe make images for illustrative purposes and stuff like that. Like, will they be out of a job because these things are going to be released onto the market probably fairly soon? And there's a real concern about job losses to AI now, and that's becoming more to the forefront because that AI is getting to a certain level where people probably can use it for these purposes.
Because we have seen the big tech layoffs last year. Like a worrying amount of layoffs. So do you see that continuing into this year?
Yeah, I think most forecasters would agree that the tech layoffs have not finished just yet. You might see second rounds from some companies and you might see new companies joining the long list of those who have already announced layoffs. Salesforce was added to that list this week. They employ 2,000 people in Ireland and they've announced 10% cuts worldwide. Google has not yet announced layoffs, but it's expected among their teams internally. Apple has certainly seems to be on a hiring slowdown, a bit of a hiring freeze at Apple. Don't know yet if they're going to also do what they're calling right-sizing at a lot of these companies. Now, there's still companies hiring in tech, lots of jobs announcements in tech. Whether those numbers will balance out remains to be seen. But what you'd like to see is that the people who are being let go from some companies will be snapped up by the growing
bigger one. Because they, like, years ago, we were saying tech is the way forward. It's your secure job. It is the one thing. What happened? Did they overhire?
Absolutely. Like, tech basically suffered from the inflation of its own ego, essentially. And that's why they're calling it right-sizing, because they scaled too far, too fast. They believed their own phenomenal growth would continue, and that just wasn't sustainable. So they're in a position now where they're having to correct for that. So a lot of this is being described as a correction. So the companies that tend to hire this year, they need to learn from that, because what you don't want to see is those scaling companies making the very same mistake. So we've seen that with Wayflyer, a unicorn coming out of Ireland. That means it's a $1 billion company. They've had to cut back on their hiring plans as well and to cut back on their staff.
There's also an element with Salesforce the day that it announced the job losses. Its market valuation went up, and the fact is that they had the biggest bonuses they have had for their shareholders ever. So it's not like they were losing money. It's just, we want to keep our dividends huge rather than do this. So, the tech industry isn't losing money. It's just they want profit. Yes. That's my own little issue with them. Now, when we were talking about AI, there was loads of stories last year, and this was about the former Google engineer who was kind of a whistleblower saying, hold on now, AI has become sentient. I have seen Google bots, I've seen chat bots speaking to each other in a language, and I couldn't keep up.
No. Blake Lemoine is not a whistleblower. Blake Lemoine is a developer who believed a bit too much in his own technology. The real experts on AI, like scientists and things like that, who also understand cognitive reasoning and things like that, as well as artificial intelligence technologies, they say what these technologies really are is actually a very, very advanced version of the predictive text modelling on your phone.
Okay.
They're very good at predicting what sentences need to follow on the prompts that you've given them. So we're talking here about chatbots, and there's one that was released very recently that looks very sophisticated and it gives you answers. But someone asked it, what's the fastest marine mammal? And it said the peregrine falcon, which isn't a marine mammal at all. So it seems authoritative and it seems like it's giving you good answers, but it's often wrong because it's just kind of trying to do a predictive engine.
And it might look like it's talking to itself or whatever.
Yeah, sometimes it might try to give you answers that please you, and it will give you answers littered with biases as well. Like, someone asked it to write a code to generate a successful scientist, and it said if white and male equals scientist true. That's not good. And we don't want this kind of authoritative sounding information getting out there. So there's huge risk for misinformation. Microsoft has done a deal to integrate one of these chatbots into Bing's search engine. So it will be delivering answers like this to people. If they want to know the fastest marine mammal is the peregrine falcon, that's not going to be any easy.
But that's exactly what some people want. It's like, okay, flat earthers, let's confirmation bias.
There was actually an AI tool released by Meta AI that was pulled back within 3 days of release because it generated fake scientific articles, essentially. That's what it was nearly built to do.
That's crazy.
Can I ask you some things? Like, there'll be people now at home and they'll have Alexa and there's chat box and things like that. Where do we see, will things like that develop? Will they become more sophisticated?
Yeah, they are.
Will our home systems become just off the charts.
Yeah, 100%. You do have those kind of, like, there's artificial intelligence baked into those technologies, your Alexas and your Siris and those kind of virtual assistants. And we see this thing called the Internet of Things is on its growth curve as well. And that's when you have smart devices across the home. Basically, when you have any device that's connected to the internet, it's considered a smart device. And not your typical devices like your tablets and your laptops become part of that. We call it the Internet of Things. So your watch might be connected to the internet now. Your thermostat might be connected to the internet now. Other devices around your house. That comes with increased cyber risk, also a huge risk for e-waste. So the cyber risk is because any device that's connected to the internet in your home is an entryway then into your Wi-Fi network and maybe into your work-based computers if you work from home. Huge risk for any cybersecurity teams now trying to account for all of that with this shift to work from home. And then on the e-waste side of things, the early adopters of IoT, those devices are now reaching their end of life essentially as hardware because software will only be supported for a certain length of time with hardware. And what we're going to get in 2023 is what's being described as a phenomenon of IoT bricks. So devices that will no longer be supported will be completely useless and probably sent to landfill.
So that's it, landfill. But also, interestingly, with tech jobs, I'm assuming cybersecurity is going to become so huge that they need to hire loads in that area.
Yeah, and anyone who unfortunately is faced with a job loss in tech this year should probably consider reskilling in cybersecurity because they'll probably bring with them a wealth of knowledge from the career that they've had in tech. They might not be trained in cybersecurity, but there are reskilling programs that are on the rise out there because the shortage in cybersecurity is chronic. Ireland alone in 2021 reported a shortage of 10,000 cybersecurity workers. And
just in Ireland?
Just in Ireland. And it's around 200,000 across Europe. And that was in 2021. I'd imagine that's gone up in the past year.
Wow.
Elaine Burke, host of For Tech's Sake podcast. You can find everywhere you get your podcast. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Is our job safe?
No. Oh, you guys will be fine. My writing, probably not so much.
No, don't say that. That's not good. We'll be.
So you'd never have anybody as good and as intelligent and as beautiful as me.
I love it.
I just can't wait until your house is like, you will have to do nothing around your house.
So is it going to be a stage where, I know people sort of say it, like where everything, you've gone home, the kettle's on, the lights are on, the heating's on, like all that's done as you walk in the door?
Yeah, and they're trying to integrate that into cars as well, where you can talk to your car and stuff like that. It's a load of nonsense.
Look how happy he is.
I just think it's fantastic, but I'd be brutal at it. I'd be pressing wrong buttons.
Oh, no, you definitely wouldn't be able to set it up. Again, doesn't know how to plug in his car. Thank you so much for joining us, Elaine. We'll be back with you on Ireland Day very shortly. Welcome back to Tuesday Show.
Coming up at 8:15, following worrying reports on a rise in the numbers of young people self-harming, psychotherapist Coleman Noctor is going to give us advice for concerned parents.
Yeah, the statistics are absolutely shocking on that. We'll talk about it in just a little while. On the way after 9, fitness fanatic Maeve Madden is going to be chatting to us about setting goals and sharing her life on social media.
Plus, from feisty Leos to laid-back Libras.
Is that a thing?
It sure is.
Okay.
We're going to meet the psychological astrologer, what a name that is, who says our lives are influenced by star signs and horoscopes.
Do you buy? Do you buy into it? Do you do it? 0896 111 111.
People are so into this. Go straight to the back of the newspaper. Look at their star sign.
You're going to win the lotto today. You're not going to win the lotto today. Anyway, Alan, he lives by his star sign.
So I'm a laid-back Libran.
You are not. You are the least laid-back person I've ever met in my entire life.
Now, we're going veggie in the kitchen this morning, and it's perfect when you see the weather outside. I'm looking at this big pot of vegetable soup, and it looks gorgeous. Vegetable noodle soup.
Chickenless chicken noodle soup.
What are you laughing at?
You couldn't remember what it was. You were like, what is it?
What is it again?
It's a chicken noodle soup with a twist.
Chicken.
There's no chicken. But we're using king oyster mushroom as a meat substitute because it's veganuary, so it's all about vegan awareness and plant-based food.
But why didn't you just say it's vegetable soup then?
Because it isn't.
But it's vegetable soup with
What's this
noodles?
Easy-going, laid-back Libra supposed to be, or whatever it was?
Touché.
Deric is at the DSPCA this morning. How's it getting on there, Deric?
Yes, Al, it's, as you mentioned there, Al, it's a wet and a wild morning out there this morning. But we're down here at the DSPCA. We're heading off to meet some of the dogs looking for new homes and to learn about their fostering programme as well. But as a big lover of cats, I said I had to stop by the cattery. Who have we got here, Colm?
This is Angel, and she's 12 years old. And she's with us, and she's on a weight loss programme at the moment.
How much has she lost in terms of weight?
So she's already lost over 3 kilos. She came in at 10.2.
10.2. So she's doing very, very well. So isn't she gorgeous? She's looking for a new home as well. But we're heading off towards the dog. So that's all to come in the next wee while. We'll catch you then, guys. Oh,
there you go. Get her on the chickenless vegetable soup. That's helped to lose weight.
That's going to make her new year, new angel. God bless her. It's time now to take a look at today's paper, starting with the Irish Times. Its headline: Hospitals brace for renewed pressure on beds. More than 850 hospital beds have been unavailable for use this year amid the ongoing pressure on the health service due to a surge in hospital attendances.
Energy firm offers customers fixed tariff after price surges. That's the front page of the Irish Independent. Energy supplier Flowgas has become the first to offer a fixed energy deal here in almost 3 years, in a move that sparks hope that prices won't rise further.
Moving on, in the Mirror's front page headline is Punk Sham Rocker. Sex Pistols star Johnny Rotten is in the running to represent Ireland at this year's Eurovision Song Contest.
The Sun also leads with that: anarchy in the EU.
And the Star's take: Johnny Rotten news, never mind the ballads.
In other news, the Examiner's front page reads: Gardaí tell TDs to carry panic alarms. Politicians have been told to consider carrying panic alarms and to vary the way they travel to work as the government assesses whether to pay for increased security measures.
Herald's headline: The Thin Poo Line. That's referencing the recent incident when bags of cow manure were thrown at 2 TDs during a public meeting in Galway.
And finally, TDs urged to get personal alarm as the top story on the Daily Mail. And we put a few texts out about that, Alan, as well.
Yeah, but it's strange, isn't it, that like we are in a situation like that now where we're telling TDs and ministers about their safety, and like what have we become? And I know a lot of people out there are just angry at them. But be angry, voice your opinion. Don't be getting physical.
And people will. Like, we hope that it never gets to that stage, but when you see there have been 2 politicians in the UK who have been stabbed, then you have to take these measures. And for people to feel that they do their job, they have to feel safe.
Marion says that the politicians aren't safe. We're talking about this now. Somebody will be hurt.
Leo said, I think if politicians were more upfront and honest with their constituents, maybe they would have less to worry about. It's the consistent untruths that are told by them that make people very erratic and could lead to them possibly doing something dangerous. I don't think anything could ever condone doing something more dangerous. And politicians being more upfront and honest with their constituent, I don't think should really make a difference.
Should make a difference. And we were also talking about the NCT delays. What is it in Dublin? August.
It depends.
It depends.
That's at Dean's Grange, one place in Dublin.
Yeah, the NCT test was due in May, but I happened to check yesterday and I got an appointment straight away, says Damien.
Oh, Damien organised. Well done, Damien. That's what Geraldine Herbert was saying. Get it earlier. Sarah, this isn't just happening now. I tried to book last July for October time. I could only get an appointment for January 17th. The car better pass now, as the service was done in July 2022. That's the annoying thing. It's paying out all the money.
Yeah.
You know?
We were also talking about relationship icks. So I can't remember the statistics, but it's about people, little icks that they go on a date with somebody and they decide, listen, it's not for me. So Catherine says, I went on a date, but his hands looked so old. I didn't go on a second date. It really turned me off.
His hands look so old.
I mean, come on.
And he kept complaining about his ex-wife. I mean, come on.
It's more the hands, to be fair, if that's the issue.
I don't know. I think that's a double ick there.
I had a thing about hands. I always would look at somebody's hands. I go, Tommy hiding his hands.
I mean, with fingernails and that sort of stuff, I definitely get that. But
your hands age you.
Yeah,
the hands is what age you. How about this?
Sorry for poor Catherine's fella.
I like big hands.
Lenny says, I broke it off after 1 month because she wouldn't flush the toilet after a wee.
Doing her bit for the environment.
That's all I say. No names. That's what you were talking about the other day.
If it's yellow, let it mellow.
If it's brown, flush it down.
No, come on.
That's it.
How many would you do, though, before a flush?
I know. Well, yeah, flush the toilet. Okay.
Relationship icks. We are one massive relationship ick. 089 611 111.
Sport ended my last relationship. My ex loved sport. Sorry, Tommy. My wife doesn't like sport either. But anyway, listen, we have to deal with all of these.
Give us your relationship ick.
0896
What would turn you on or turn you off?
We'd love to hear from you. Now, after the break, psychotherapist and parenting expert Coleman Noctor will be here. We're going to be discussing a very serious topic with him. We're back in 3. Now, there have been reports of an astronomical rise in the number of young people self-harming, with two leading psychiatrists describing the situation as a hidden epidemic.
Child psychotherapist Coleman Noctor joins us now to discuss. Coleman, thank you so much for joining us on this. And we were reading this report and the lack of beds and the fact it's been called by Professor Mary Cannon a hidden epidemic. First of all, when it comes to self-harm, like, what exactly is it? And are the rates rising in it? Are we seeing more people engage in it?
Yeah, well, certainly younger people engaging in it. It's kind of a phenomenon across the board. We're seeing conditions that we would have seen in 14, 15-year-olds in now in 11, 12-year-olds. So from the point of view of, I think there's a generic kind of sense that childhood is shrinking. So we're seeing these kind of conditions, you know, existing in the younger age group. That's across the board. Certainly the last few years has been hugely disruptive to young people's lives. And we've seen a rise in all presentations, eating disorder, depression, anxiety is huge. And as a result, you're seeing more self-harm. I think that what's important to understand is self-harm is a coping strategy. It's something somebody does in order to manage distress. It's not, you know, or it's a way of coping, control, or communication. It's one of those three things. So there's something underlying it. And what it is self-harm is a signpost to the problem. It may not be the problem, if that makes any sense. And so from the point of view, we have to look where that signpost is pointing to and try and understand why young people feel the need to do that. And, you know, the idea of pleasurable pain is not something that we make sense of. And for young people, they'll describe a kind of a gratification from it, that they'll find a release from it. They'll find that it actually, in the short term, helps them to feel better.
That release, is that an emotional release, as though they're in such distress emotionally that feeling this sort of pain is a distract? Like, is that what it is? That it's like, I can focus on this rather than what's going on internally. I can focus on something physical.
Yeah, I think there's something about emotional pain that is very difficult to... It's not tangible. It's not something that you can manage. So when you can manifest it into physical pain, it feels like there's something to manage. There's something to... And it's almost like writing your emotional stress on your body, if that makes any sense. But I think for people who don't get that, it's very hard to understand what that might be about. Do you know what I mean? And so from the point of view of, I genuinely think what we need to understand is that it is a coping strategy. It's something that somebody is trying to do. Now, of course, people get very anxious about suicidal behaviour and whether self-harm is a gateway to that. And of course it can be, but not in all cases. Many people will use kind of self-harm behaviour in order to manage rather than to end their lives. And so, you know, and again, the younger the person, the less they're going to understand why they're doing it. They're not necessarily going to be able to articulate why they feel it helps. But what we will notice is when you have a higher level of anxiety, depression and issues of emotional distress across the board, you'll see higher levels of symptoms like self-harm, eating disorder, etc.
What are the resources like for young children? This is a psychological problem. We're hearing of hospital overcrowding. We were talking to a doctor yesterday saying that actually in children's beds now, there's actually children on trolleys waiting to be seen. But from a psychological point of view, I can imagine it's way further down the pecking order even, or not pecking order, but where the resources they're getting being offered.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in the services since I started in 1995, so I'm here a long time, and that problem has been there since then. You know, this is not, I can remember having conversations with HSE in 2000.
Is it getting worse, though?
It's getting worse because it's not getting bigger, and the problem is, so supply and demand. So from the point of view of, given what we've been through, and COVID has, you know, set us back massively. I would say to you, like, take, for example, emails. Prior to 2020, I might have got 4 or 5 emails a week. Steadily over the last 3 years, you're getting north of 30, you know, of people having concerns about their children. That's a massive increase. So you can imagine that CAMS, support services, teen counselling are getting the same level of demand. I have no colleagues that I can refer somebody to because everyone is full. So even if you're going down any route, getting support, prompt support for a young person in distress is next to near impossible. We've heard about the waiting list.
It's impossible. It's next to near impossible. So if your child is self-harming, they need help, it's nearly impossible to get them to see somebody
Promptly, yes. You know, again, you'll be put on a waiting list. You might get something. You know, you can see the thing with self-harm is you'll present to the A&E. I mean, that's probably where you'll go, and that's not the right place for anyone in emotional distress because it is so chaotic and it is so busy, and you need psychological and emotional care. But where there's your physical health is compromised, you have to get that checked out first. And again, there'll be emergency referrals that will get referred quicker. You know, if you have suicidal issues, you might be put on a more urgent list. But what happens then is all the routine stuff gets pushed back. So if you're waiting on a list, that's how you get the waiting list, because we don't have the urgent responses that we need.
But if we're talking about a hidden epidemic, and we know that suicide rates in Ireland are indeed very high, when you're talking about youth suicide, we're one of the highest in Europe. So does there, and I know we've been talking about the health service and the state of it in this country. When it comes to the mental health service, do we have to start treating this in a way that there is an emergency department, an ED for mental health in certain areas, that it is treated as such a way of going, this is not just physical health, because indeed, of course, there are issues with their physical health with it. But do we have to start going, okay, this needs to have its own triage area?
Oh, 100%. I mean, the idea that mental health problems only exist between 9 and 5 Monday to Friday is nonsense. And we need to have support services. But the idea that, say, for example, children have educational needs, they have health needs, they have social needs. You know, so we need a wide menu of services that can meet children's needs when they're emotionally distressed. Of course, psychiatry is but one response to that. You know, but there should be a whole range of psychological and services that will meet those needs, rather than seeing it all through one lens. What we're not very good at is signposting people to the problem. You know, if we saw the airport overcrowding, if you're in the airport, someone's looking at you and saying, well, you need to be in this queue, you need to be in that queue, you need to be in that queue. The structural issue is that people stay in the wrong queue for a year and a half. They get there and say, sorry, you should have been over there. If it's a substance misuse issue, it's a dyslexia problem, it's an educational problem, it's a bullying problem, it's an anxiety problem. We really need to get better at signposting people into the right queue.
I mean, it's shocking to think that in Ireland, one of the highest rates of youth suicide in Europe. I mean, it's frightening. This has obviously been discussed, mental health being discussed a lot in schools. A lot of pressure has been put on schools. They're probably having to do things outside what they're, what they were trained to do. Is that an impossible situation for teachers out there as well to deal with this on top of everything else?
I have huge sympathy for teachers, because what they're trying to manage and the level of acuity that many of them are trying to manage, because a child hasn't got access to services, and they're doing it very much without the levels of support that they require, is far beyond what they can manage, I think, from that point of view. We need to start putting supports in schools, and that means actually having presence of practitioners in schools, not a well-being workbook or something like that. It has to be, how do we meet the needs of young people who have issues, who are presenting with issues? But what we're seeing pressure, expectation, stress. Look at children's sport. Look at children's academics. There's all these reasons why children are having more mental health problems. Much of our mental health problem is a societal and cultural issue. You know, there's a famous quote, stop trying to pull people out of the river. Let's go upstream and find out why they're falling in. And there is an issue that we need to deal with. And we're the adults in the room, as well as developing services, which is important. But it's much better to regenerate a culture than it is to just build another clinic. Does that make sense?
I completely get that. And it is, why is this happening? But the issue is, and I think an awful lot of psychiatrists and psychologists who are working in the youth area, the rise in, I think it was Professor Mary Cannon who said, it's unknown why it's rising so much, why it is this hidden epidemic that it has become over the past few years. So if you're at home and we sit here and we're trying, I can't imagine being a parent and trying to spot signs, whether it's self-harm or if someone's anorexic. I'm assuming for someone with self-harm, it's hugely hidden. You can cover yourself up and what can parents do?
I think what you find is when a parent uncovers this and they find out the scars on the child's arm or whatever it might be, it strikes fear in their, and there's a response to go and kind of get a bit hysterical about it. Or else there's a response of kind of saying this is a fad and they're just doing that because someone else is doing it in their year and kind of dismissing it. Neither of those responses is optimal. What you really need is to be able to open up the conversation about it. So, as I said to you, it's a signpost to the problem, it's not the problem. Don't get caught up necessarily on the self-harm element of it. Try and find out what is leading to to needing you to do this and trying to explore that further. Keeping lines of communication open, having the child able to talk about it. if you're able to manage and find a way of coping with distress that doesn't involve self-harm, you make the self-harm redundant. But you have to help the child to be able to do that. Oftentimes that will involve professional help, which again is what we've talked about is the problem getting to that. But from the point of view of trying to be, and I know this is much easier said than done, as measured and as calm as possible, trying to explore it. Don't dismiss it. Don't get overly hysterical about it, but try and find the middle. This is an issue of anxiety, it's an issue of mood, it's emotional pain.
Is social media a big problem with this as well? Is it increasing the pressure on children?
It's probably increasing the awareness of it as a potential option in terms of, you have lots of unhelpful social media elements that you can find.
From a parent's point of view, they don't know what their children are looking at or being seen videos.
Yeah, and again, it's maybe not so much the content as the dynamic of social media. The pressure to be perfect, to be beautiful, to be popular, to be sporty. Yeah. That's the stuff that's feeding into our unhappiness, as opposed to watching one video and having that relationship, with that. So, again, it's pressure. How do we ease the pressure on young people? If childhood is shrinking to the level children are being exposed emotionally and cognitively to things that they are not able for, and we need to be able to either protect them or support them, and those are the two approaches that will help us with the eating disorder, the self-harm stuff, as much as just trying to respond to it.
And we know that everywhere is overwhelmed, but the helpline connection to helplines there is on the screen. I think one of the things that you said that's so poignant today is that childhood is shrinking. That's what's happening. Like, it's happening to kids who are as young as 9 now. And God only knows what's going to happen next.
The flip side of that is adolescence is stretching. So we've got young people in their 20s, still living at home, not able to move outside. So there's a shift dynamic, but protect childhood.
Yeah, 100%. Child psychotherapist, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Coleman Doctor. Really appreciate it.
Now, thank you for staying with us. It's cold, it's dark, and it's raining outside, so we asked Paul Knapp to do what? Your favourite?
Make us a gorgeous chicken soup.
Without the chicken. You're replacing the mushrooms instead of the chicken with noodles, so it's not chicken noodle soup.
It's a chickenless noodle soup. It's veganuary, so it's Vegan Awareness Month. It's all about kind of looking at more plant-based options. Shops are getting really good with, and restaurants are as well, with supplying some plant-based options. So what we're doing is we're switching out the chicken for king oyster mushrooms. So these are readily available.
Tommy's favourite.
They are much. Well, listen, they're small enough so you won't notice them, but it replicates the chicken, OK? So what we've got is like kind of what you might hear, say, chefs call is a mirepoix of vegetables, or if there is Italian dish, it might be called a soffritto. But what it is, it's like that classic holy trinity of carrots, onions and garlic, which is the base of all good soups, stocks and sauces and stuff like that, OK? So we're going to be using those, and all of the ingredients is up on Island M's Facebook page as well as the Virgin Media One's website. And we're going to throw in there some fresh herbs as well and stuff like that. So it's really kind of fresh packed, and it's a kind of a clear soup, so it's made with a stock, so it's not going to be too heavy. It's really kind of high in fibre. It's really low in calories, probably about 300 calories for a bowl of the soup, so it's not a lot, do you know what I mean? So especially after...
When did this Veganuary start?
It's market employ to get people to kind of pay more attention to, I suppose, is what they eat and to be healthier people and also create a healthier planet that we currently live in. So I suppose that's where it comes from. But it's been around for quite a few years and it gets lots of people signing up to it and stuff like that. So it's just, I think it's just get people more aware of, the, I suppose, the damage that industrialised farming can do around the world. But anyway, get back to this. So what we've got is we've got a pan on the go here. So all I've done is heated up some oil, and you don't necessarily need to use oil. So if you wanted to, you can just chuck this in with a little bit of water, because we actually kind of sweat off or steam the vegetables. So if you're really kind of trying to reduce the calorie count for, just after Christmas. So we're going to pop in there. There's one large onion's gone in there. I've got 3 carrots that are diced, or mirepoix, or soffritto, whichever you want to call it. I've got 3 leeks that have gone in here as well, OK? It's a really, really simple soup. Start to finish is about 40 minutes, all right? And 20 minutes of that is cookery time. So when you think about it...
you're just sweating that off,
Sweating that off, yep. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to pop that in, just turn it up a little bit more. I'm going to pop in there is just 1 leek's gone in there as well. So all I'm going to do is we're just going to cover these in our oil or our plant-based butter, or whichever it be. So that's your base of your soup. So as I said there, it is a clear kind of a vegetable noodly soup kind of a thing, OK? So what we would do is we'll pop a lid on top of this, all right? And we're going to let that sweat down in real time for about 8 minutes. So it starts to soften, the celery starts to soften, the onion starts to become translucent, all right?
That not burned, you have to keep stirring it.
With a lid on it and on a medium heat, yeah, always give it a little look, but it should be OK. Just give it every so often, give it a little stir, but don't tar it out and chase it around the pan, you know what I mean? Pardon?
You've got the oil as well.
Absolutely, yeah. But with keeping that lid on, it's going to create some steam, it's going to draw out all that flavour. The king oyster mushroom, OK? Your favourite. You do love a mushroom, I know. That's why I kind of did this, especially for the both of you.
Tommy hates mushrooms.
Thanks, Paul.
Tommy hates mushrooms.
I love the cookery segment.
Yeah.
And then the mushrooms come out.
So all we do is we just chop the top of the mushroom off, OK? And we're just going to kind of cut that finely. So what we're trying to do is it's going to give you those kind of shreds. And we get this king oyster mushroom, all right? And what we're going to do is
why are you choosing that particular? Is it because it's giving you
what
that?
We're going to do is we're going to go like this with the fork, OK? So we're going to kind of just fork this. And what it does is it starts to shred. So you can actually use this for many, as a meat substitute. You could actually put this with like a barbecue, if you liked mushrooms, a barbecue sauce, and you could use it as like a pulled pork. So all we keep doing is we keep pulling this and we keep pulling this and we keep pulling this. And it just ends up as in these shreds there. Yeah. And that's what we do. So it's kind of to replicate those shredded pieces of chicken.
Could you use jackfruit? Because that's something that you kind of shred like that too.
What's a jackfruit?
I don't know.
It's like
just something or another.
I love it.
Paul's done it in a vegan thing before.
No,
where
I
you
was asking
scrape
what
it.
I thought you knew what a jackfruit is. You sounded very knowledgeable there.
But you go into the supermarket or go into the local veg shop and say, can I have a jackfruit?
You can buy it in cans. You can buy it in cans.
What is it? Is it a type of
It's actually a
mushroom?
fruit. It's like a small child. It's this big thing, and then you take it off and it shreds down like this. So it's actually a fruit.
It's kind of like a braised, you kind of slow cook it, and it's kind of like braised beef or kind of like pork like that.
I'm putting into here, there's about 4 cloves of garlic gone in there. And what I'm also putting in is about a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper and a 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper goes in there as well. And we don't tend to use white pepper a lot in cookery, really. We kind of use black pepper a lot. And then I've got 2 tablespoons of sage, fresh sage, and 2 tablespoons of fresh thyme.
And why did you use the white pepper then for
because
this?
It gives it, you know, like, I suppose traditionally, you know, people would have given us like a chicken noodle soup when we weren't feeling the best. And, you know, sometimes, like, our taste palette isn't kind of brilliant and stuff like that. With the white pepper, it's like these little needles on your tongue, so it will still give you, if you can't taste a lot, you will still get some flavour coming through. But it's also, it's a lovely spice that we tend not to use that much. So now we've got this lovely herby-packed vegetable. And then into that, then we're going to add in our wonderful, wonderful mushrooms. So what I've got there is I've got 5 king oyster mushrooms have gone into this as well. And it looks a lot in this bowl at the moment, but we cover that with a pan lid. And again, we're going to cook that for about another 3 or 4 minutes, and it's going to reduce right down, OK? Yeah. And then all we're going to do is we get 2 litres of stock, a good veggie stock, and we pop that in there like so. And then our noodles. You can use regular dry noodles if you want. Cook them for about 8 minutes in there.
Aren't
These
they?
are the udon noodles.
Udon.
So I'm going to put those in there like that as well. And all we literally do is that then just sits there and it will bubble away. It will do mind its own business for about 15 minutes and it will be cooked in under 20 minutes. The whole thing takes about 20 minutes. And what we get left with is this wonderful kind of loose soup that's got these lovely pieces of mushroom in there. There's that lovely flavour of stock, which is flavoured from all those wonderful mushrooms, which you love. And then what we get
I'm literally trying to fish out. I mean, there's like nothing but mushrooms in this soup today.
I loaded your one up.
I have to say, for a day like today, and that is just, you know, in January and it's cold like that and it's lashing rain, that is delicious. There's lovely flavours off that.
Thank you very much.
And you don't need the meat or the end. Like, it is basically a vegetable soup, yeah.
Yes.
It's not, it's a chicken noodle soup without the chicken.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul, as always, a pleasure. Thank you so much. It is delicious, guys. After the break, Deric's going to meet some furry friends down at the DSPCA. Stay tuned for that.
Forget Ace Ventura. That's a blast from the past, isn't it? It's Deric Ventura this morning. He's becoming one with the animals at the DSPCA. Morning, Deric.
Yeah, good morning to you, and we're down here at a wet and wild DSPCA in Rathfarnham in South County Dublin. Gillian Bird joins us now. Jill, let's talk about the work you do here at the centre.
Yeah, so what we obviously do is look after sick, injured and cruelly treated animals. Everything, so it's not just the dogs, the cats, the horses, it's a bit of every type of animal that we look after. As you can see, the ducks and geese behind us. It's too wet for the goats, they haven't come out of bed yet. But yeah, lots of different animals.
Now, a dog, as we know, is not just for Christmas, but you've had a lot of people returning dogs over the last couple of weeks.
We have, so basically not really kind of the post-Christmas, but more the pre-Christmas, with people trying to get rid of them. We would love it if people had made a decision they couldn't keep their puppies, they would actually return them, or they would basically surrender them to us now. It makes it much easier for us to rehome an animal when it's young and it's cute like these guys are, than when they've already developed behavioural issues. So we would say to anybody, if you do think you've made a mistake, please do contact us and we'll talk to you about rehoming.
Now, puppies, there was a lot of them for sale during COVID. I think the world's mother got a dog over the 2 years, and now there's a lot of them coming back, isn't it?
There is a lot of animals. I've heard a lot of stories of people surrendering animals, and these would be people now who would have made very conscious decisions to adopt a dog or to buy a dog even. And yeah, absolutely. And I think people just didn't really think through. COVID times were very different to what normal times are, and I think just people got carried away.
We've lots of footage there of the dogs on air. How many have we in the centre at the moment?
We've around 65 dogs here in the shelter at the moment. We've a lot more out on foster, and we've obviously got waiting lists of animals waiting to come in as well. And some of the animals we have aren't just puppies. We've a lot of older dogs, sort of requiring special homes, but they would be very, very loving animals.
Very loving. And who have we got down here, by the way?
So we have these 3 puppies. We've 3 lurcher puppies, so they haven't officially got names yet, so we call them Harry, George and Fred. And they're just basically, they're looking for homes. They're around 12, 14 weeks of age.
14 weeks, and that's a greyhound lurcher.
Lurcher cross.
Lurcher cross. Now, let's talk about fostering, Kate, because there is a lovely fostering programme here in the centre.
Yes, we hugely rely on fosters, both for our dogs that are in medical care that need it and for young puppies like this before they're vaccinated. But we also do kind of a trial adoption or a foster with intention to adopt.
Okay, so how does that work?
So when you register your interest, you'll come up and meet the dog, and then if all goes well, what you can do is you can take it on a week's trial so that you can see what the dog is like in your home, the size, is it what you thought, how day to day is going to run. Now, it's obviously early days, but it is a great kind of indicator if that dog is for you and if it's a right match. If it is, amazing, and if it's not, there is no obligation, and it also gives us a good idea of what the dog is going to be like in a home and in a house environment if it doesn't.
Let's talk about the adoption process then as well. It's not just you walk in and pick a dog and off you go home.
No, so we put in, when a dog comes in, we'll assess them, we'll see what home suits what we think the home might suit them best, and then what you can do is you can apply for that dog. So we can see your application, we can see kind of what your work life is, what your home life is, and if that dog is going to fit well into that. If it does, amazing, you can come up and meet. If it doesn't, what we can do is see the other dogs that we have here, and one that you might not one that you might not instantaneously go, oh, I want him. Hi, how are you?
He's very excited.
Want him. We can see if there's a better fit, and then you can come up and meet that one as well.
Okay, so Gillian, and as you mentioned, it's not just dogs that are here. We also have lots of cats looking for homes.
We have a lot of cats looking for homes. We have some older cats, we have younger cats, and we surprisingly have kittens, which is not something we would normally have at this time of the year. But because we had such a mild winter, they continue to breed, so we still have kittens at the moment.
But as Kate just mentioned, the fostering programme is very important as well, and it's helping to get some of the animals out of the shelter and into homes, even for a short period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we still have quite a few animals out on their Christmas foster, so there are quite a few. But do come up, don't just rely on what's on the website. Do come up and have a look, have a chat with the staff, and we'll find something that matches.
By the way, can I just say, because I was in there this morning, they're so well looked after, and they're also happy and they're healthy as well.
They are, absolutely. Oh no, they're beautiful, and they're so well loved up here. The staff are fantastic, and our volunteers, we have to do a shout out as well.
Are great. And you're always doing fundraising, aren't you?
We are always fundraising, absolutely. And look, I'd say to anybody there, check out our social media pages. We're all over the social media. We've always postings up of videos, stories, all sorts of things, and you can just come up and have a look and visit us.
If people want to find you online, where can they find you?
Best place is our website, dspca.ie.
I would nearly go home with all these dogs, and in fact all the cats. And we're in, Tommy, back at base. They do the fostering programme, so maybe that's something you want to try out, Wearing. Give the guys a shout. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us here this morning. Back to you in the studio.
Absolutely. Alan and Wearing.
Cute.
Yeah. But it's what I should do. But we spent, well, no, I didn't. The housemates spent all weekend getting rid of black mould in the house, so I'm like, it wouldn't be safe for a dog, to mind us.
No, I'd love a dog, but I just, like, when you're very busy, I don't think sometimes it's fair.
Well, I think the message there is that don't just get a dog.
Yeah, just because you think it might be good.
If it doesn't suit your lifestyle, you shouldn't get it, because we're seeing that with people with COVID, who are having to go back to work, back to the office and stuff again. Or, you know, after Christmas, it's lovely. Like, I have a dog, I love having a dog,
and
but it's a lot of work.
Yeah, the kids love it as well. But I believe, like, Gillian and the guys there, they do amazing work. And the geese and all in the background, I never knew they did that.
Everything.
Horses and everything there.
But
who's returning the geese?
I mean, who gets a geese and then returns it?
They just flew in. They were like, this gaff looks nice, I'm going to move in here.
I got the turkey for Christmas, but fell in love with it, so we actually kept it and then gave it
to the DSPCA. We do hope that maybe that has convinced some people to do a little bit of fostering, because I know that there's actually animal shelters all over Ireland that had to close their doors because so many dogs were being surrendered. So the amazing work the volunteers do. Thank you so much for giving us the time, DSPCA.
Thanks very much. Now, on the way after 9, we'll be
it's heartfelt, from the heart, Tommy,
Yeah,
okay?
Tommy, that was really heartfelt, wasn't it? Yeah, thanks very much. Now.
Maeve Madden's going to be chatting to us.
And there's easy off-duty stalls on the catwalk.
Heaven forbid you'd be sincere inside in this blooming place with these two. Like, it's actually him being back. That's all I'm saying. Plus,
thank you so much.
We'll see if star signs can help sort out your love life. Do you know what? I'm gone. I'll just leave it with the two of them for the rest.
See you after the break.
You'll see them after the break. Hello, it's coming up at 9 o'clock on Tuesday, the 10th of January.
Still to come, workout queen Maeve Madden chats fitness, family and shares her tips for kickstarting your health goals.
Alan, what's on the catwalk today?
Well, Myrne, if you're looking to update your off-duty wardrobe, Rob Condon has a stylish Athleisure Wear. Is that what we're calling it? Athleisure.
Yeah, we're taking a look at Athleisure Wear this morning.
Athleisure Wear.
Yes, a little bit more fancy.
Wear. Sorry, now I'm getting it wrong.
Lots of great pieces. If you're fed up with dressing up after Christmas, New Year, we're going to show you how to dress up your tracksuit. So whether you're heading to the gym, whether it's an off-duty lunch, so whether it's brunch or even the school run, we're going to show you how to do that this morning from West End Shop and Park.
Like that this morning.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And we've got 4 great coats that are going to mix and match with all of your tracksuits.
Okay. I don't have a tracksuit.
Well, you need to get a tracksuit.
Have you got a tracksuit? Myrne has a tracksuit because she runs everywhere.
No, that's me.
Athletes everywhere.
Athletes everywhere. I love the way when Sarah, you know the way she bounces. Looks like a great workout. She bounces really. Sarah, we're going to look at that bounce a little bit later on. Fabulous bounce. Now, what else is coming up on the show? We've got, we're looking to the stars, January, with psychological astrologer Margaret Gray. Good morning, Margaret. It's lovely to have you with us. Can you tell me exactly what is a psychological astrologer?
Absolutely, and good morning. Lovely to be here. Psychological astrology is really about exploring your birth chart, getting a better understanding of yourself, and the birth chart is really a symbolic map of the heavens at the time you're born.
See, I know people who go and get this stuff done.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a big thing for hen parties.
To go get,
to kind of do your stars and all that kind of stuff.
What do you need to find out, Margaret, to get a birth chart? Sorry.
You need your exact time of birth, ideally your place of birth, and time, place, and date of birth. So you need those 3 things. It's kind of hard sometimes to get your time of birth. Not everybody has it, but if you have it, it makes it much more accurate.
Lunchtime, I'm always hungry. And Alan won't give us his date of birth. We've tried, it's not happening. Look at this. What is it? Did you send it into the group?
He's a millennial.
It's the 19th of October.
Anyway,
I'm a Libran.
We'll leave that out there.
That's it.
You can give us yours.
Hello, welcome back. Now, earlier on, we were talking about the NCT because there is a wait of up to 9 months around the country in order to get your NCT done. And it does say on the NCT website that they've talked to the Insurance Alliance of Ireland and you will be able to get your car insured even if you don't have a valid NCT. But Teresa says, I went to insure my car and they would not insure it without an NCT. Even when I had a date, the insurance company told me the only way I would be insured is that if it was deemed roadworthy by a registered automotive engineer. The engineer I called said minimum charge for this is €200. That seems like that insurance company are taking you for a ride.
What do you do with that?
I wonder is Teresa's car quite old? That's the only thing. I would imagine if it was a newish car, maybe not. Maybe the insurance company are just being
my worry is that if you had to, if your NCT ran out and you had to wait another 3 or 4 months and you got in an accident, would your insurance still cover you for
Geraldine
that?
was saying that you would if you have a thing. But
I still just think you'd need to clarify that. So it would be worth contacting your insurance company before that because you don't want to get caught out and then they tell you, well, sorry, you don't have your NCT. It's not my fault that you couldn't get your appointment.
Michelle said people have to get their car serviced and then on top of that need the NCT. And people do get their car serviced before they go, because I've been to an NCT and failed on small little things. So anytime then after that, I went to the garage, got a full service on it, so I wouldn't fail the NCT, which is obviously more money.
Yeah, I've done that as
well.
Yeah,
sometimes I bring it to the NCT, let it fail, then bring it and get everything fixed, because then it's free. The recheck is free. So
anyway,
find out if
let's move on to something a bit more crack, to be fair. We've been talking as well about people revealed the most bizarre reasons.
Sorry, we were boring you there.
Breaking up with a partner, including the likes of dirty fingernails, wearing socks in bed, whatever else. So Fiona said what would turn me off the most is bad teeth.
Bad teeth.
Yeah.
But what about the sport end of the relationship?
Okay.
My ex loved rugby. Sorry, Tommy. And I didn't love it. I married a guy who had no interest in sport, and now we live happily ever after since that. We're our little boy. See, I suppose if you're a mad sports fan and it takes over the TV and it takes over your life, and Saturdays it's all about watching the matches and doing all that.
Going out with your mates.
There would be a lot of guys who would. The Saturday is their big day. But
that's more than just the ick. That's like, we don't have a relationship because you've got a relationship with sport. Do you know what I mean? You can't get with someone like that. Whereas another one that says, the ick was that he kept on winking. I'm so sorry, it was completely and utterly irrational, but I couldn't stand the constant...
Really?
Winking at you or winking at other people?
Just said constantly winking. Couldn't stand it. Gave me the ick.
What about if he's tight with money?
Oh,
yeah. There you go.
The winking's very funny.
Yeah, but can you imagine all the time when you just be like, what are you winking
What are you
at?
winking for?
And then next thing all you heard, and you just kept on saying it like this, as though it was a twitch, and you were like, I can't.
But if he was doing it to other women or other men, that's maybe a thing.
No, she didn't say he had a twitch, just that he was constantly winking.
I love that.
Who's there?
Hi, guys. How's it going?
See, those are the sort of ick things. Yeah, there we go. Now, sorry, after the break, Northern Irish fitness queen, Maeve Madden. Maybe she'll give us a wink. If Maeve Madden gave you a wink, you'd be very happy. We'll talk to you shortly. Give us a wink there, Tommy.
It's great to have you back. January is the time that many of us set health and fitness goals for the year, don't they, Maureen?
Yes, they certainly do, but there is no pressure to do that either, just to let you know. Our next guest has 3 words of motivation to keep you going. Queens, don't quit. Joining us from Dubai is workout Queen Maeve Madden. Good morning, Maeve. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
I have often looked at your videos on Instagram as you're shouting, Queens don't quit. And when you shout, for some reason, I don't go, oh, God, stop it. I just start smiling. It's working for you. How's life?
Oh, it's amazing. We've just launched our new app. It was a year in the making, and we've hit the top 5 in the UK charts. Or not the UK, the Irish, the UK. I mean, that would be amazing. But no, it's fantastic. We've hit the top 5 in the Irish app charts for fitness apps, and it's going so well.
So I have to ask you, is that a big water bottle beside you there? Because, like, Warren here for the last week
it's in my screen.
Has been going on all...
This is my Queens Don't Quit water bottle, yes.
Can you send Warren one? Because she's all on a fad about drinking more water, be new year, new Warren at the minute. So I think that would suit you, wouldn't it?
Well, it just so happens that I also have one of these with the little taglines along here to keep you motivated as you drink. So, Lauren, you know what? 2 of them are on the way to you. I'll get your address after, and we will post those out for you.
I will absolutely murder
Queens don't quit.
He's giving.
You go, girl.
He's going to be shouting that at me for so long.
We'll send one to you as well, Tommy.
Okay, thank you.
And he
will do you lovely.
He's the queen in this place. He's the queen in our relationship. But how is it? You know, for an awful lot of people, it is. You know, it can be quite intimidating with January and everybody hopping about the place being like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. To get people to feel a little bit motivated, like you do this throughout the year. So for most people, it doesn't matter when they start, right?
No, absolutely. And very much on my platform and on Queens Don't Quit, we always recommend, especially in January, you know, to ease yourself into things, to take your time. It's hard enough, waking up in the morning, getting back into a routine after Christmas. And so there is no pressure, really. But I do believe that everyone can, I do believe that everyone can commit to at least 20 minutes. At 20 minutes, maybe 3 times a week is what we recommend that you start off with. And we actually have a program on my Queens Don't Quit app called Fast Track Fitness. And that is very short, 15 to 20 minute workouts. And you know, what's 15 or 20 minutes out of your day when you would sit and watch a Netflix series for an hour? No problem. So 20 minutes 3 times a week is a great start for anybody.
You were talking there about the popularity of the app. And I think what was one of the big things with you in particular, you've built a real community. There seems to be like a real group, and so it's not all having to be about you. There's actually everybody in the community is kind of motivating each other.
Absolutely. We have queens from literally all over the world. We have from Noodle, who's in Hong Kong. I mean, everybody seems to be Irish because, you know, Noodle in Hong Kong is definitely Irish. To Audrey, who's in Clare, and Vicky, who's in Cork. And it's just such a range of women from all over the world, from teenagers right up to women in their 70s. And the best thing about it is that they can all communicate with each other on my platform. So I developed within our technology is that you can chat to each other while you're working out. And if you're not working out, we have a community on there where people can send each other messages. And it's really lovely because you do get that community feel, even though you're not facing each other or you're not, you know, going to a gym and things like that, but you still have that really strong bond with women. And I say women because 99% of the community is female. We do have some males on there, and we do offer a lot of strength training as well, which more men tend to go for. But yeah, there's just an awesome community feel, and we've seen that when we've run our live in-person events and been to the likes of Wellfest as well.
And when I look at an awful lot of your stuff online, you do put up stuff from years past when you were, you know, a fitness model and you were told that, you know, you have to be a certain size, and you compare your body now. Obviously, this is your job. You're always working out, so it is part of your job. But you kind of show what your body had to look like in order for you to be considered a fitness model. And you were incredibly unhealthy. You look miserable. Like, when you compare the body and you look back at what you were, like, you were so thin. And they thought that that was the okay size. When you look back at that time, did you feel like you were a little bit brainwashed?
Oh, 100%. And, you know, I look at where I've done fitness covers for magazines and where they've edited, you know, my skin to make it look so healthy. And I had horrendous acne. And, you know, I'm looking so, like, you know, the picture of health, where really inside I was like absolutely dying. And I was looking at myself, and when I see the behind the scenes photos that I've taken personally, and I'm severely underweight and just bones and everything. And it was so bad. But in my head, of course, I was booking jobs at this time. And I really think that through social media, although a lot of people may find it a little bit toxic or a little bit negative, there is also a positive side, because you do have people on there who are sharing very like a lot of body confidence and sharing their stories by coming through this, and you know how amazing it is to feel strong and to feel healthy and really promote that image, which I didn't have, and yourself, like, we didn't have that when we were younger, and I feel like there's so much more of that now today, and it's really amazing to see.
Yeah, another area you've been really honest with, because it is a new year, but you spoke about in 2022, your poor dad passed away, and how, you know, mentally, how difficult that was. And there's a lot of people would have lost people last year, and Christmas and New Year would have been difficult. And fair play to you for being so honest to a lot of your followers and how you dealt with that.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah, listen, I'm sorry. It is such a hard topic to talk about, but
that was so raw.
But good on you.
It's totally fine. It was, you know, and it's amazing, and it's like, and weren't you know yourself, it's probably the hardest thing that anyone kind of goes through in their life, and it is amazing to talk about. And I took a break, and everybody, you know, I went off social media for 3 months. And for me, that was very much to deal with what I was going through, and I would talk to people online as well, and people you don't even know who've been through that experience, and that's so comforting, and it just shows, you know, how strong community that we do have.
And your dad had this phrase, because he helped you in your business and everything, wise up and get your work done, which is what you like to do. And then last year you got, because I was like, well, I just drive down to Limerick and go up and have a look at her wedding, because you're in Adare Manor. You got the big church wedding.
Wow.
It all happened last year with the family. Was it fabulous?
There I am, and Andrew.
Yeah, you finally started to show him.
yeah, we had an amazing day, and it was, oh look, there's my wedding photos, and it's so lovely to look back, you know, and it was a really, really magical day.
Do you find, though, with Andrew, you don't try to bring him too much into social media? Does he try to kind of stay clear of the whole Queens don't quit mantra?
I never shared my relationship. It's so funny, when I got engaged, a lot of people were like, to who? Yourself? Like, they didn't even know that I had a boyfriend. And it was the same with the wedding. I didn't, we obviously shared some photos, but I didn't share too much about, well, I shared the breakdowns for sure, the stress of dealing with the wedding. I definitely shared that. And there's a lot of stuff that I don't share on social media, and I've continued to really keep Andrew off the socials, just because he doesn't enjoy it, and it's very much, I try for my social to be more about my Queen community, about working out, about health and fitness, and that's about it really, and just being honest in my day-to-day life. I'm just really all about myself.
But that's I'm just wondering if you're going to have to go into interior design, because you were just talking about recently about how the beige aesthetic isn't good for a person like you, because when you're putting on your fake tan, you were like, I can't sit down for 5 hours. I can't sit down in any of my furniture.
That is very true. Damn Kim Kardashian. I mean, I think she started this trend with white furniture, and now my house is all white, and everybody said, oh, why would you do that? And I was like, no, it's grand. And now I'm walking around like this, you know, trying to like not sit down on anything and keep everything clean. And even when my family came to visit, I have a niece and she's 2 years old, and I was like, well, this is why. This is why everything was covered in throws.
There we go. Tommy's going white furniture.
Good luck trying to keep anything white.
That's
in a
not
house
something that's going to happen. The new fitness app, a huge congratulations, straight into the top 5 in Ireland in top apps. It's QDQ, Queens Don't Quit, and you can find Maeve on all the socials as well. Maeve Madden, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thanks, Maeve. Cheers for joining us.
See you later. Now, still to come, because, you know, Maeve, we'll just go to tracksuits on the catwalk.
Why not?
Yeah, we'll have that coming up. And we're also doing star signs on what your birth chart says about you.
Love it. That's on the break.
Perfect. Trends come and go, but tracksuits are here to stay.
It doesn't say tracksuits.
It doesn't, but that's what they are. Come on.
What, Rob, you were calling it?
Athleisure wear.
Athleisure wear. Athleisure wear.
I've been wearing tracksuits since I was 5. I still wear tracksuits.
You've never called them athleisure wear.
I have never amazingly used the term athleisure wear.
But just imagine you now going to school in Limerick. I wear my athleisure wear.
I can imagine going home and saying that in Limerick. They'd be like, get out. Okay, Rob, we're talking about tracksuits or whatever you want to call them.
Athleisure wear are tracksuits, and we're dressing them up this morning. So lots of people have been dressing up over Christmas, December, New Year. So kind of January, everyone wants to dress down. They want to wear their tracksuit or athleisure wear. So we're going to show you how to kind of...
Why are you calling it athleisure wear?
Because it's fancier. That's what everyone's calling it. That's the trend.
Okay. Yeah, don't be...
the word is having a moment.
Hello, Sarah.
Yes.
How's it going?
With our first look on Sarah here, we've gone tone on tone. A really great coat here. This is available from Next. All of the stock this morning is available from West End Shopping Park in Blanchardstown. I love this long line coat here. It's all about warmth with this coat. You can see the detail to the top of it. Also with the pocket detail in here, they're a fleece pocket, so you're going to get warmth out of that. It's perfect whether you want to throw it with a tracksuit, whether you want to throw it with a pair of jeans. You are going to get lots of warmth.
I just want to take that coat, go and lie down somewhere and wrap it around
I
me.
finally caved and got me a duvet coat. It's the best thing I've ever... I love it. It's amazing.
Exactly. With the top underneath it, we've gone with a co-ord here, so it's matching. This whole co-ord is available from Pep & Co. At Deals, you can see the cowl neckline to it. It's ribbed, it's drawstring. I love the trousers of this because there's kind of a sportswear vibe to them, but there's an athleisure wear, kind of that kind of sports looks vibe to them, so they're a little bit more dressy, but they are a tracksuit bottom. They are €18. They're cuffed at the end. But a great piece. Now, if you didn't want to go with the co-ord, you could mix and match this. You could go with a different hoodie underneath it, or also with the trousers.
Now, Sarah has a lovely top knot on, so she can't be putting that hat on that lovely bun at all. So she can show it.
Yes, we've got the hat here, so a perfect hat to kind of combine those tone on tone.
Can I ask you, what's going on with the gloves?
The gloves, so they're a mitten-style glove.
She's been waiting.
Then they've got a flap.
I was looking at them and going, what is the story with the gloves?
Do you hear that? Like, Sarah's like, I've been out the back practicing that.
Been rehearsing that all morning.
Yes. So they're a mitten style with a flap to keep you warm.
Now, let's go with tackies.
Yes, we've got these are available from Nike factory store. So they're kind of keeping in with those tones there. They're going to go with loads of different things, whether you're throwing them with any colour tracksuit, any of these items, because they're neutrals, are going to go with anything.
Yeah.
And with all of the coats this morning, we've kept them quite neutral colours, so they will match in with your all your different
tracksuits. The idea with those gloves is that because if you're typing your phone or doing stuff, and then you can just...
Yeah, so you can... And
really?
I've got a pair of them.
Over.
Like that, because you can do half gloves or full
God.
gloves. It's very, very, very handy. Sarah McGovern is here with our next look.
Yes, next up we are all about this long line gilet. They come out every autumn, winter, and there's lots of them out at the moment. There's a short version to this as well if you don't want to go with the long line, but I think the long line is perfect. It's great for a layering piece as well. So you could layer it over a coat, you can layer it under a coat. It's all about keeping you warm. It's that great throw-on piece, whether you're heading to the gym or whether you're heading for a coffee.
Now, the look underneath this is fab.
Yes, I love this look here. It's a co-ord, so it's a matching tracksuit, but it's a little bit dressier that I think you could definitely...
It
is.
Technically.
No, it is, yeah.
It's not a tracksuit.
It is, it's their loungewear collection, but it's kind of got a 70s vibe to it as well. But I think you could definitely dress this up if you got rid of the trainers with it. You could make this look really dressy.
But Sarah's, you're really tall, so they go, like, that goes down nicely. That kicks out really nicely. That's great.
So, and I think you're getting lots of coverage with it as well because of the high waist to the trousers, as well as tying in at the waist, and it's a long line top as well.
So you've tied that in the front, that can obviously tie in at the back.
It can tie to the back, but you're going to
Yeah.
get more coverage by tying it to the front.
And then the chunky kind of, they're not runners, they're more...
Then we've got the hat here at $17.50 from Next, so just really matching in with the gilet there with tones there.
That's lovely now. Oh, dancing in that, wouldn't you? That'd be all good.
Very nice.
But you could mix and match it with the top. You could go, if you did want to dress it up as well, you could go with like a leather look, legging
The
or
coats,
jeans
I
with it.
just want to get wrapped up in all these coats. They're all fab.
We saw lots of teddy coats at the end of last year. So if you bought a teddy coat for dressing up that you might have worn over a dress in December, bring it back out and throw it over a tracksuit and it's going to work.
I have this exact look. I wear this all the time. A camel coat and my blue tracks bottoms.
Do you have
my
a
blue
teddy
tracksuit.
coat?
It's a camel coat. And
Yeah,
then
exactly,
I've got a
but-
blue tracksuit.
Yeah, even a camel coat, whatever it is, throw your coat over your tracksuit. It's going to look great. With the top, it is €9. So we've got this cohort, it's matching. This comes in loads of different colours. So it comes in a camel colour, it comes in black as well, the tracksuit. Two-piece there from Noodle, but I love the blue and I think it just works really well with that teddy. It's all about effortless, stylish with this look here.
That's really nice.
Yeah, it's a really cool look.
Yeah, you're wearing that in loads of different places. You're totally fine.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just all of those basics. Everyone kind of invested in a teddy coat and then your basic tracksuit, and then finishing off with the trainers there. There's a little bit of animal print detail to the back of the trainers there, but a really cool piece, and then the monochrome laces.
Very Balenciaga inspired with those, aren't they? They're fantastic. Danny, that's lovely on you. I think that is absolutely
cozy,
gorgeous.
Danny. Cozy.
Cozy?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that now.
Yeah,
I'll be getting
just
a few
really
more, though.
effortless, cool with that look there.
Now, Sarah Morrissey's coming out with our final look today.
And we were talking about coats that are going to match in with lots of different things. I think a khaki long line coat, it's going to match. Like, a lot of people will have one winter coat of this style that you're going to throw on going on a walk. So if you are buying one, I definitely go with a neutral, a khaki, that's going to match in with lots of different things in your wardrobe, whether it's going with colour, whether it's with denims, or whether it's just with a neutral. It's going to match in, and khaki will definitely do this. It's available from Mountain Warehouse. It's ducked down, so you're getting lots of warmth in that. The amount of padding in it, so it's definitely.
And you'll have a
warm
coat like
jacket.
that for years. You just put it away, then you bring it back out the following year.
Yeah, every season you're going to be able to bring it back out. It's really warm, really big hood in this as well. You can see we've kind of gone oversized with it this morning. I think go up a size in it, because most likely if you're wearing this coat, you're going on a walk, so you're going to be layering underneath it. Then we have the bottoms here, so it's matching with the top. It's another cohort. They are available at Mountain Warehouse. Really great pocket detail coming in at the end there with the cuff to the bottom of these tracksuit bottoms.
You're bringing a little bag, are you?
Yes, a little bag for all your essentials. So if you were going on a mountain
Or when you're going walking.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Do you know when you go walking, Alan? Yeah.
If you're good, yeah, okay.
And then finishing off with the trainers there. So they are kind of a nude trainer to match in with the look.
Absolutely lovely. I feel very cosy even looking at all those, I
feel
have to
cozy
say.
looking at them.
Yes, cozy, casual and comfortable.
I saw you in a tracksuit in 2021, I think it was.
It was
Do you have
probably
it?
during rehearsals or something.
It was during rehearsals for the show. Do you still have it? You don't know?
No.
No, doesn't know if he
Well,
has
if
it.
you have a teddy style coat, throw it over it.
There you
You'll
go.
be on trend with your
I'm actually going
athleisure
to
wear.
go and buy a tracksuit. because I literally think I need... On a day like that, you just want to get into a tracksuit.
You do want to get into something cosy.
Yeah. No, I would get into Athleisure Wear.
That's sorry, of course you would.
From Ballyfermot, from Ballyfermot.
Of course he would.
Far from Athleisure Wear, we were wearing Ballyfermot.
Everyone, text him. Text him. Get onto him on Instagram and take those notions down a notch. Rob Condon, thank you so much. Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Now, coming up next, we are going to be delving into the world of astrology, and we're going to find out what your star sign says about you. I love doing stuff like this. We'll talk to you shortly on Ireland Day.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, astrology and horoscopes have long been popular, with many people believing their destiny is written in the stars.
Beautifully said. Now, psychological astrologer Margaret Gray is here to tell us what we can learn from our star signs. Margaret, it's lovely to have you with us. I've heard of astrologer, I've heard of psychologist, but together, like, what is that exactly?
Well, you know, psychological astrology is really about getting to know about ourselves. So astrology is just a tool, like many other tools. And combining the two is really about getting a better sense of who we are personality-wise, rather than predicting something's going to happen in 2 weeks' time.
Oh, OK. So for an astrologer, then, what are the qualifications? Then you're a psychologist and an astrologer, so you've put the both together.
I'm actually a psychotherapist and an astrologer. But I did a course. I first studied with a psychological astrologer in Bristol for about 6 years when I was living there part-time. And then I did another 3-year course. But people come to astrology in different ways. Some people are self-taught and some people do courses. There's a lot, you know, there's no real certification that's formal, but there are a lot of great courses, some of which I teach.
So what, say if someone's going to you, like, you know, I read my star sign every single day. Love reading my star sign. I love it.
In the paper?
Yeah, always in the Indo. I don't know why. I always just pick I don't know why. That's just where I always pick. But that's where I read my star sign. So if someone's going to you, like, what do they get? Do you sit down there and you're not, like, as you said, you're not just going to tell you what's happening 2 weeks in advance. What do you do?
The difference is what you see in the paper is your sun sign. So it's really focused. It's a very generic interpretation of your sun sign. When you come to me or to another astrologer, you're looking at the whole chart. So the chart has a lot more than the sun. It's got the moon. It's got all the other planets. And
why is it a sun sign? I don't get what you mean.
The sun sign
like
is what you call
Libra,
the star
or
sign. Exactly.
Pisces or whatever.
Oh, right, OK.
Which most people know about, which is why the you know, horoscopes in the paper are based on the sun sign, because not many people know what their moon sign is or what the other planets, where the other planets are.
There's a moon sign?
There is. There's the moon, there's Venus, there's Mercury, there's Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Yeah.
Are you nodding like you know all this? Do you know all this?
I do all this. We were having a chat outside.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realise this. OK. OK, so this is, so if people go to you then, do you do kind of the star mapping? Is that a thing?
Yes, that's a good way of describing it. Imagine taking an image, a photo of the sky at the time you were born, but it's a symbolic map. It's not astronomically correct, which is where astrologers and astronomers kind of part ways. But for some reason it works. It really gives a huge amount of information about the person, but you have to have your time of birth, really, ideally.
Now, when you're sort of saying there that some people come to it and they're self-taught and other people do certain courses and stuff like that, is this why we get the skeptics in? And because, like, if do you actually believe what it says in the paper? You don't.
No,
so
I don't.
you're very good. So what do you say to people who read that and go, oh, I'm in, like, so for the next 2 weeks now, it's looking good for me. And then if something happens to them, they go, oh, but... Like, should you believe these things?
Well, they're a very generic interpretation of what's happening for your sun sign. But of course, not all Taurians are going to have that experience.
What's happening for their sun sign?
There is a way of interpreting that. People do actually sit down and work through it, but they're very generic and they're not meant to be interpreted literally. They're really meant to help people connect with their sun sign, because our sun sign, you know, think of our solar system. The sun is the center of our universe. Similarly, in the birth chart, the sun is the center of our birth chart, and it's a work in progress. It's what we're trying to become. It's not what we are. So horoscopes remind us of that. But really, if you want to understand more about yourself, it's really ideal to understand your birth chart. Either do a course and get the basics yourself, or come to an astrologer and we'll help you really translate that language.
Okay, so if we can, and I know we're going to go into the boys in a minute. I think I sent my date of birth a little bit too late last night. But it's you kind of doing all this stuff. What will that tell? Will it point people to what they should be doing in their life, where they're going wrong, decisions that they should make?
You know, first of all, there's always free will and choice. That's always paramount. So what a chart interpretation will do is give people information about themselves. You know, what brings them meaning in life, which can help them then find what they'd enjoy doing in life. Whether career is important or not for them. It's actually not important for everybody in terms of our journey on this planet. So it's really about those deeper layers of who we are, how we respond emotionally to things. Also, what we're looking for in relationships. I do a lot of relationship astrology, and it can be incredibly helpful to really know, what am I looking for in a relationship?
Okay, I think we should get into this. You've got a chart for Tommy and Alan.
Yeah,
what do you have for Alan?
I do. I don't have times of birth, so I've done a generic chart.
Oh.
And for Alan, I mean, Alan, your sun is in Libra, your moon is in Scorpio. So that describes, sun in Libra is really about finding balance in life. That's really your main task in life. But your moon in Scorpio is incredibly intense and very deep. So you have this depth inside into the emotional realms. Okay.
Okay.
And you've got Mercury in Libra. So you have the ability to stand back, I imagine, and get an overview of situations. So it's that there's a part of you that's visible, which is the more Libra side, but I imagine the more private side of you is fairly emotionally intense and deep. Would you agree with that?
I do stand...
You're good at standing back in an overview.
I can stand back, and I always do try and get a work-life balance. I always try and get... Myrnam saying more leisure than work.
What are you talking about? You're on holiday 75 weeks a year.
Come on, Tommy. What's Tommy?
Tommy's like, sorry, what now? What?
Yeah,
I'm just sitting over here.
We have Tommy here, so here's the quad.
What's Tommy?
Going on now?
What's going on now?
Tommy, you've got sun in Pisces. You've also actually, funnily enough, got moon in Scorpio. So the two of you both have our moon in Scorpio.
What does that mean now?
But your sun in Pisces is very creative. I mean, there's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of ability to be very intuitive. You're both incredibly intuitive individuals. So I imagine it serves you well with your job. You've really got, you know, again, it's interesting because how you communicate is more air. You've got Mercury in Aquarius, so how you think is very different to how you are in life. So there's, again, in the chart, there's all these different...
Speaks before he thinks, is that what you're trying to say? There's a lot of air in here. There is. Do you know what? Actually, you've nailed it. Anything else?
Well, just, I mean, do you enjoy daydreaming? Do you enjoy...
Yes. Oh, my
You caught me mid-daydream there.
That is, like, he shut down at 9:30. He just went, I'm gone now. He's gone. This is amazing. Hold on. If people want to find you, where can they find you?
Astrologypsychological.com or relationshipsandastrology.com.
Yeah.
Both the websites.
And people go, how much, like, would a session be?
A session is, for an hour, is €180, an initial session. And then if they return, it's less.
Okay, and this is what they look like?
Yes, that's what a chart looks like. Yes.
That's what it is, and it's got everything going on.
Don't be showing my one off.
No.
Oh, Tommy, it is your name. Sorry, darling. Sorry. Margaret Gray, thank you so much for joining us. That was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a joy.
Now, our daydream believer over there. How are you doing?
Yeah, busy show coming up tomorrow. Mary Kennedy is going to be dropping by for a chat. TV Dr. Rangan Chatterjee on finding happiness and following your dreams. That and lots more. We'll see you bright and early from tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday at 7.